Okay, and we are live. All right, 3, 2, 1. Okay, hi everyone. I'm so excited to be here today to discuss University of the People's new certificate in game design, launched in partnership with the Endless Foundation to expand access to technology education and help students move from playing games to creating them. My name is Jessica, and I am part of the UoPeople team. I'm lucky to be here today with Stephen Reid, VP of Learning at Endless, who is going to give us some more insight into this partnership. Hi, Stephen. How are you?
Very well, Jessica. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Not
We're
at
so
all. Thank
excited
you
to
for
have
having us.
you.
Yeah, thank you for having
um,
us.
yeah, thank you. Can you please tell us about yourself and your role at Endless?
Absolutely. So, my name's Stephen Reid. I am currently the VP of Learning Experience at Endless, and so I oversee the learning development course, the development of all of our learning courses, and the rollout, the operationalization of our courses, our mentorship, all the things that come with making sure that learners can access and take part in and succeed in our learning rollout. My background is largely in game-based learning, so I have used video games to teach almost exclusively for my whole career, ever since I was first an educator, right through to some 25 to 30 years later, now working at Endless.
Okay, very good. And can you tell us a little bit about Endless?
Yeah, so the Endless Foundation is a philanthropic organization that looks to serve the most disadvantaged children in the world, right through to, I mean, all learners are welcome, but with a specific focus on reaching learners that don't necessarily have access to the types of learning spaces that other learners might do. And then we can grant fund those partners and those learners and those programs, and then roll out through that grant funding programs and courses that would allow those learners to then achieve and get access to a digital economy and go on into the world and do great things, specifically through partners like the University of the People.
Yes, well, we're very excited about this partnership. I want to talk a little bit more about the partnership. Um, so my first question for you is, how does a program like this prepare students for real world opportunities in game design?
So the thing about the course that we're developing with University of the People and rolling out now is that every course is hands-on. So students are literally prototyping, playtesting, they're iterating in game development, and they're using the same kinds of tools that professional studios use. It's focused around the Godot engine, which is a primary game engine, which is free and completely open source. And they do have exposure to Unity and Unreal as they move through it. The capstone part of the course is the centerpiece. So students work in interdisciplinary teams. So they kind of forge mini studios, if you like, which is a real world experience. And they write design documents, they pitch their concepts, they run play tests and present a finished game in a public showcase to either faculty or industry professionals. And so they graduate with a real portfolio piece. It's that meaningful, relevant, real world example. And the soft skills that come from team production and direct pathways into roles like gameplay designer, level designer, interactive media designer, or even Q&A, which a lot of people don't tend to think about, but it's a massively important role. So nowadays, portfolio is actually more important than pedigree. And so this curriculum that we've developed reflects that reality.
And would you say the skills that you learn, that the students will learn, are quite transferable skills?
Oh, absolutely. So when we set out to develop a course, we actually don't design for the gaming industry. So we talk a lot about how we bring people to a digital economy using game development. But actually, what we really don't say is, and at the end of this, you'll become a game developer, because that's not reality. And it's not necessarily what's important. Game development is the doorway to a skill set that you can use across thousands and thousands of different roles, across hundreds and hundreds of different industries. And so that's the important part.
Okay, very interesting. And what would you say inspired Endless to support University of the People in this partnership?
So, first of all, we love the work that you're doing, and we want to be able to support that. But deeper than that, game design sits at a very rare intersection. It's creative, and so many people think, I want to make a game. I've got ideas, and so it's that initial ideation sort of creativity bubble. But also, it's very technical, and it also teaches storytelling, which is what game development's all about, but it's also what life is all about. Good storytelling in any role is one of the sort of successful foundation metrics that very few people talk about. And but you've also got project management and collaboration, and we've talked about how those skills are transferable across so many different industries. So gaming is also one of the largest creative industries in the world. It's still growing. It's larger than so many more of its media brothers and sisters and cousins, including music and film. The problem is that game design education has historically been expensive, and it's been concentrated in a handful of countries. It's been focused predominantly on code. So there's this idea that if you're a coder, well, you can make a video game. But coders can't make video games without musicians and artists and marketers and management and production and game design and so on. And so we aim to expand that move, that vision, if you like, for what games are supposed to be. And so we saw an opportunity to take a discipline that ignites curiosity, especially in first-time learners, and makes it genuinely accessible, which is what the Endless Foundation stands for, and also in alignment with the work of the University of the People. So it was a perfect fit, really.
And you kind of touched on this, but why was it important for Endless to support a program in game design specifically?
Because game design is the gateway to that transferable skill set. We found that if you can inspire and excite and engage children in this very specific idea that a game can come out the other side of this, and gaming is hugely important as pop culture, but also just generally in sort of modern youth psychology. And so this becomes the gateway. And games are deeply engaging, especially for first-time learners. And so this course meets students where that curiosity is for them, but it also reflects our roots in technology, software, and creative tools. I mean, beyond game development, the Endless Foundation has done a lot of work in breaking down access to technology for learners. So things like providing an operating system that can be used offline, or building devices and supplying devices into spaces as access where people don't normally have access to those devices. So the technology, the software, and the creative tools was a real inspiration for us to say we could do all of this, and we can do it through games, and we can do it with partners like the University of the People to meet the learners where they are.
Very interesting. Very interesting. And why is expanding access to education globally such an important issue at Endless, or to Endless?
Yeah, I mean, I've spent 30 years of my life in education, and it's still the single most, no matter which way we try to kind of redesign it or remake it, or whichever tools we bring in or whichever trend comes next, education is still the single most reliable way to change the trajectory of someone's life, regardless of how we choose to do that. And we might think there are other ways of doing that, but the education system sits as an engine to do that. And so, and not just them, but also we quite often talk about the individual, but also the people that are impacted around the individual, like their family, and then their community, and then their society. This idea that if we can give individuals access to a digital economy, you can change the entire trajectory of a village, for example, in a southern hemisphere village, for example. And so that's what Endless was really built to push against, was this idea that the geography and the money and the politics somehow decide that trajectory, if you like. So it's really down to empowering learners to take on the tools that are available to them open up access, make sure that those sorts of tools like devices, like operating systems, like internet, devices, like courses that normally are being charged for, or the reason we use Godot, because it's open source and it's not, later when they find out they've developed something, they don't have to fall into a licensing pattern where suddenly they're due money that they can't afford to pay. These are the sorts of things that we kind of we push against. And so technology has kind of finally made it possible, if you like, to deliver real accredited education at a global scale. And we believe that that's a responsibility for us, not just an opportunity. When access expands in the way that I've spoken about, productivity rises, incomes rise, unemployment falls, and as a result, entire societies, certainly communities, but entire societies can benefit.
Well, it's a very interesting perspective. Thank you for sharing. And what opportunities do you think the certificate can create for students around the world?
Yeah, so I mean, this certificate opens a door that used to require expensive tuition, or being born in the right city, or even in the right part of the world, usually Northern Hemisphere, Western Democratic, and that still continues. These people are equally as important, but it opens up the door to so many others for about $1,900 total, fully online and on the student's own schedule. A learner anywhere in the world can build the foundational skills to build a real portfolio piece that travels with them and really kickstarts their career. The game industry is increasingly global and remote, like our company. I mean, we work entirely remotely. And so as a result, a graduate in Lagos or Manila or Bogota can compete for the same opportunities as the learners in New York or San Francisco, or London, for example. And because the credits can stack up into the University of the People degree programs, this is a starting point, not just a ceiling. It's the on-ramp, if you like, to the rest of their career.
I do want to reiterate that the cost of the degree is quite affordable. And
absolutely.
That was really a goal of ours, was to make the degree accessible to everyone. So,
I mean, and
you mentioned that.
Yeah, very affordable. I mean, if we think about rising tuition costs across the world in general, and the issues that we're seeing with universities and the cost of access to universities in places like London and the United Kingdom, Europe, and America, for example, it's drastically reduced and hugely attainable.
Yeah, absolutely. As you know, the mission at University of the People is to make education affordable and accessible to everyone. So we love that mission. What impact do you hope this program will have on students' lives?
Yeah, so on the most immediate level, we want students to finish this program with a real game. What's the goal? You walk out of there and you've produced a game. And it's that a lot of people underestimate this, but we quite often talk about just one element of a game as a contribution. So when we talk about, we see these students all over the world and they've made something, and one of them will say, I made the music at the end. Or another person will say, see that little jumping technique? I did that. And so it doesn't even have to be a whole game. Sometimes it's just the pride they get in creating the thing that they problem solved for a graphic asset or a single piece of music. But ultimately, as a complete success, and the most immediate level, we want students to finish the program with a real game that they made with a series of their own or collective contributions within it. And the confidence that comes with calling themselves a creator is the first step, to be able to say, I made that, because so many learners around the world don't even get that opportunity. And education can quite often be, talk and tell. And the idea that students can create something self-determinate and walk out the other side is missing in so many spaces in education. This is very specifically designed for that. But beyond that, we want it to be a credible pathway into a career in one of the largest, fastest growing creative industries in the world. And even longer term than that, we hope that it shifts who gets to make games. If we look at the world of game development right now, it's largely held together it's largely dominated by a set number of companies across a set number of countries, and massive amounts of funding only go to those spaces. And for the rest, it's either you need to find some way of getting there or moving into that space, or tough. We want to shift that. When the people designing games come from 200 countries instead of just 20, then the stories and the worlds that reach players become far richer, and that's good for the medium and also good for the players. And I think it's not just about the number either; it's about the diversity. Like, where are the women's stories? Where are the BIPOC stories? Where are the stories that will enrich this game development space that come from spaces they haven't traditionally come from before?
Very interesting. And Stephen, on a personal level, what does education mean to you?
It's a really long one, so I'm going to keep it as short as I can. But education is what closes the gap between potential and opportunity, right? It's education is that people often talk about the curriculum, and if we look at the meaning of that word, it's, curriculum vitae. It means journey, the journey of my life. And when we talk about a curriculum, it's the journey that children take through their learning. And so education is ultimately that journey. The problem is that the journey is so often linear. The journey is gatekept. The journey is very often arduous for a lot of children. And so for me, and it shouldn't be like that. For me, education should be fun. It should be, now this sounds cliche. So many people around the world, you go to these education conferences and everyone's like, education should be more fun, right? But how do we do that? What's the reality of that? How do we shift this massive engine that has been traditional education, that hasn't, you've barely seen a change in the classroom since the 1970s. This is really, really hard for us to kind of, as a concept, as an organization, because that talent is everywhere. It just doesn't always get the chance to develop. And so that asymmetry in the system is a thing that and I know my team find hardest to accept. And that's why I've spent my career on it, and not just in education, but I specifically rebelled in my own way in using video games. I mean, the first instance of using a video game in a classroom was literally on my first day, and I took my own PlayStation into the class. We're going way back. Somehow got it wired into a white screen and used it in a classroom. Now, that back then I was frowned upon. It was deeply questioned. It was seen as unprofessional. I was laughed out of, other school offices when I was like, you should do this too. Come forward 20 to 30 years now, people are desperate for that sort of solution. And we're seeing huge leaps and bounds in using creative technologies in the classroom. And so I think that's something that I've always really pushed back against. And also, when I see what University of the People does, and when we as Endless look at University of the People as a partner, you aim to meet someone where they are in any country and make it affordable as possible for them to access that education, regardless of their background, and ultimately walk away with a degree, a real degree. Then that's what education is supposed to do for me. It's supposed to be accessible, and that's the ultimate kind of thing for me. Accessible to all. Everyone belongs.
Yeah, we definitely believe that at University of the People also. So a lot of synergy happening. And one final question for you. What would you say to a student considering this program?
Okay. It's a remarkable program. I think if you've ever considered that you might want to build a game, or wondered if you can build a game, then this program's built for you. I mean, you don't need prior experience. It's affordable, it's accessible, it's pay as you go, it's fully online and asynchronous, so you can do it in your own time, regardless of your own personal situation. It fits around work, it fits around family, and in about 10 months, you'll have a real playable game in your portfolio and the foundation to keep going and do more and more and more. It's a foundation for the rest of your life and almost any career you might choose to go into. You just have to build on that foundation thereafter. And the hardest part is starting. I would say, I know that the hardest part, particularly if you have never been given this opportunity before, if you can't see yourself in this process because no one has ever told you that you can be in this process, you might be sitting thinking, well, I would love to build a video game, but I couldn't because, well, look at me, look at who I am, or look at where I live, or look at the education I have so far, or whatever. Forget that, because the hardest part is starting. It's one foot in front of the other. Everything after that, this program is designed to do for you, with you, alongside you. So sign up, get started, be brave, take the plunge, and the rest will fall into place.
Okay, Stephen, thank you so much for your time.
Not
It's
at all.
been wonderful to speak with you. I really enjoyed learning more about Endless and our partnership together.
Mm-hmm.
Any final thoughts you'd like to add?
No, for me, I would just reiterate, thank you for the partnership. Thank you for the shared vision and the shared mission, which I think is so important. I have the great pleasure of working all over the world, and meeting partners and organizations and corporates and parenting groups that either do or do not align with the mission that we hold, and University of the People does. So we're super grateful for that. And thank you so much for choosing to work with us.
Well, we are also very grateful. So thank you so much. I hope you have a great day wherever you are in the world. I know you're working remotely, so
Yes.
have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Jessica. Thank you.